This is BBC One in the East. Now the news at 10 o'clock with Peter Sissons and Charlie Figgis.
The firefighters' pay talks collapse. Tomorrow's two-day strike is on. The union calls the offer insulting. Employers say they're bully boys. Prince Charles's private secretary to investigate the fallout from the Burrell case. Breast cancer, how the risk increases with every alcoholic drink. And a famous Liverpool fight back, but not enough to stay in the European Cup.
Here in the East, contamination fears as a former clay pit gets the go-ahead to dump toxic waste. And caught on camera, the motorist still speeding on one of the most notorious accident black spots in Northamptonshire.
Good evening. The firefighters' pay talks collapsed today, plunging the Blair government into its worst industrial crisis. The union, which wants 40%, threw out an offer of 11% over 2 years, conditional on big changes in working practices. Accusations flew. The union saw the offer as an insult. The employers hit out at bully boy tactics. The government called it holding the country to ransom. So the first strike of a series for 48 hours begins tomorrow evening. Our special correspondent Ben Brown is in the East Midlands.
Firefighters in Derby tonight still answering 999 calls. But not for much longer. This time tomorrow, the men and women of White Watch will be on a picket line rather than on a fire engine. They say the 11% they've been offered is derisory. For now, they continue to risk their lives, but from 6 o'clock tomorrow night, they join the first national fire strike for a quarter of a century. The firefighters here in Derby certainly believe that this could be a long and protracted strike, one that may last for weeks and that they expect to become increasingly bitter as time goes on. They believe it will come down to a trial of strength between their union and Tony Blair. And they say they will be striking with a very heavy heart.
We're in this job to protect the local community that we work in. We're in it to save lives, not to put lives in danger, but the government have forced us to take this step, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the government that are putting people's lives in danger, not us.
I'm the same as everybody else. I don't want to strike, but I have a family to support, and we do a professional job, and I think we deserve a professional pay for what we do.
When the pay negotiations collapsed in London, firefighters outside chanted their defiance, and their furious leader stormed out to tell them that the time for talking was over, the time for striking had arrived.
We have had no alternative but to reject what is a derisory and insulting offer to some of the finest public servants in the world. It is with incredible regret and great reluctance that the nation's fire service will withdraw from duty tomorrow evening at 1800 hours.
The employers too have ratcheted up the rhetoric.
We will not yield to unrealistic union wage demands, nor capitulate in the face of bully boy tactics designed to hold this country to ransom and put lives at risk.
So tonight, Britain's substitute fire brigade is moving into position all around the country. The military's green goddesses, old, slow and badly equipped, and just 800 of them to stand in for more than 3,000 fire engines. There will be talks tomorrow about what kind of emergency cover the firefighters may provide in the case of a major disaster. But the government said tonight the union's walkout is unjustified, dangerous and wrong.
I'm afraid they are not behaving in a rational way at the moment. I hope they will. I hope they will see sense and come back to the negotiating table. But there really isn't much more you can do with a party that is quite determined to go ahead with a fruitless strike.
And today, on the eve of that strike, firefighters from all over Britain came to Leicester to mourn one of their own, Bob Miller, a father of two, killed trying to tackle a factory blaze. It was a reminder that this will be no ordinary strike, but one that may mean the difference between life and death. Ben Brown, BBC News in the East Midlands.
During the strike, emergency calls will be directed to specially convened military control centres. A panel of officials will then decide how to respond. Tomorrow's strike will last 48 hours from 6 o'clock in the evening. 3 8-day strikes are also planned before Christmas. On strike days, the emergency number will still be 999. Our industry correspondent Rory Ketland-Jones is at a fire station in West London, and our political editor Andrew Marr is at Downing Street. But first, Rory, so much bitterness and so early in the dispute, it doesn't bode well.
No, huge anger on both sides, Peter, and both sides deeply entrenched. The firefighters feel they're very much undervalued. They say the government isn't listening to them. One firefighter here told me, send a message to Mr Blair. Remember what happened last time a Labour government took on the unions in the late 70s. On the other hand, the government, they're saying, well, if you think we're going to fold after a couple of days, think again. That's what one official told me tonight. And the message from them, listen, we can't recruit nurses for love nor money. But firefighters, there are 40 people applying for every job. They just don't think there's a case for more pay. And as for the employers, well, I think they've got a taste for modernisation now. Whatever deal they want to come out of this, they do want to see a modernised fire service. So the firefighters are recognising now that if they want to get anything out of this, they're going to be out a long, long time. But they're up against an opponent determined not to be faced down.
Rory, thank you. Andrew, in Downing Street, has the government got any bright ideas about how to sort this one out?
No, I think sort of bleak determination rather than bright ideas. There's another meeting tomorrow, as there was a meeting this evening, but it's really about safety and emergencies, and no one expects anything to come out of that. Ministers expect this strike and a few more to go ahead. What they are now hoping for is that a fairly sort of catastrophic slide in public support for the firefighters, from their point of view, kicks in, and that with the prospect of a whole cascade of strikes running up to Christmas, this starts to unravel on the Fire Brigade's union side. They also are looking back to the 1970s, pointing out that in 1977, the last time this happened, the firemen came back eventually after their